The Phantom 4 from DJI is by a long shot the best flying vehicle I have ever had the pleasure of using. And I'll spend the next 7 or so minutes telling you why. Intel's Skull Canyon NUC features a 6th generation Core i7 quad-core processor and Thunderbolt 3. Learn more at the link in the video description. Right out of the box, the Phantom 4 impressed me. It's small, it's light thanks to the magnesium chassis, and the packaging can actually be reused as a really robust carrying case. It'll hold the quad, a metric whack ton of spare propellers, the controller, and either 2 batteries or a battery and a charger. That's pretty much all that a recreational user will need, although there's still room for accessories like hard cases and backpacks for the pros. The setup process is fairly easy thanks to the documentation, but still a little tedious. So after charging the batteries, it took about 20 minutes of, how do I turn this on? It's a quick press, followed by a long press, by the way. Screwing on the pill bottle style locking propellers, running around looking for a lightning cable. I used an iPhone 6S for this review, by the way. Updating the firmware and figuring out where to put a micro SD card, only to realize that a 16 gig one is included out of the box. Bonus! I did my first latency test of the first-person view camera feed. And it is hard to say how much of this is generational improvements. I mean, my Solo is just about a year old now, and how much of it is DJI's use of a hardline USB connection instead of that whole kludgy connect to a Wi-Fi access point here that connects wirelessly to the drone relay. But wow! This is head and shoulders better than anything I've used before. I mean, it's not like Twitch reflex high-speed flying capable gear like those blokes in the Drone Racing League are using, but it is certainly responsive enough to not be an excuse for a photographer or a videographer to miss a shot. At least when it's sitting in the entryway of my house, literally 1 meter away from the controller. More on that later. Now, some folks can go on and on about how sexy the Phantom 4 is, but drones don't really turn my crank, and I feel like if you've seen one quadcopter, you kind of seen them all. It's got, you guessed it, 4 propellers. Yay! So it's the underlying tech that gets me excited here, and let's get it up in the air while we discuss. The motors have been upgraded for about a 20% improvement in top speed. That's up to 72 kilometers per hour in sport mode, with the 5300 milliamp hour LiPo battery rated at a maximum of 28 minutes, though this assumes a very steady flight and optimal conditions. Not being a drone ace, I personally didn't find much reason to whip around that fast, but there is more to the improved motors than just, I want to go faster! And in the normal P mode, the most impressive thing to me about the Phantom 4 is its stability in the air. P, or position mode, uses a combination of GPS, downward-facing cameras, ultrasonic emitters, their new inertial measurement unit, and these upgraded motors to achieve something I just hadn't seen yet. Nearly perfect hovering and shockingly fast self-correction during small gusts of wind, or when the user suddenly lets go of the sticks in the middle of a maneuver and it needs to compensate to get back to a hover. It's so confidence-inspiring to see it behave so predictably in the air that I was actually willing to let my 4-year-old son help me fly it in my lap, something I wouldn't have even considered with any other drone that I have touched. Some of which theoretically hover when you let go, but in practice require a fair bit more user intervention than that. Which doesn't mean it flies itself if you don't want it to. Purists can switch to the less helpful attitude mode, which turns off the GPS system and lets you bank and drift through corners much more naturally. I mean, I think the bottom line about the Phantom 4 is that flying it is just such a pleasure. However manual or not manual you want it, it behaves smoothly and predictably. And the first-person view is fantastic. Just fantastic. I mean, to be clear, I am aware that there are DIY solutions that can handle even lower latency and longer range. But to say I was blown away when I flew for 20 minutes around the corner of a building and up to 1 kilometer away, which is as far as I can go maintaining line of sight with my binoculars anyway, without so much as a compression artifact on the video feed, would be an understatement. Again, the 3DR Solo, also a very good drone, went a similar distance, but not in a confidence-inspiring manner. I mean, it would glitch out here and there, and the video feed was anything but HD by that distance. Which leads us pretty well then into the camera. It is great. I was quite critical of DJI initially for moving to their own proprietary camera system instead of collaborating with a market leader like GoPro. Except, whether they saw this coming or it was just a lucky guess, GoPro has sat on their ass and done absolutely nothing noteworthy in the last year and a half, while DJI has been innovating. So the camera is slightly sharper than the Phantom 3 Professional, and while I lack one personally for comparison, it is really, really similar to the Inspire 1 based on this fantastic video from Falcon RC Hobby. And the gimbal actually has an added support link as well for better stability. The 120 FPS 1080 recording mode was quite disappointing. And I'll let you be the judge of its low light performance. So this is 1080 60p footage as we were approaching dusk on an otherwise sunny and beautiful day. But my overall takeaway here is that the footage is professional grade stable and looks amazing. What a payoff for DJI on that gamble. Which leads us pretty well then into the Phantom 4's touted autonomous flying modes. I have no use, personally, for click to fly, where you touch the touchscreen and it goes where you touched. I can operate control sticks. But the object tracking mode that I'm using on my bike here is freaking sick. You drag a box around the object you want to track, and the Phantom 4 follows it using its front-mounted cameras to either avoid oncoming obstacles or go around them. And under carefully controlled conditions, it's amazing. It actually uses the visual tracking rather than a link to the remote control unit the way most of these solutions work, yet it actually managed to produce more usable footage of a moving subject running around below it than my 3DR Solo. With that said though, it has a long way to go before I will trust it in the way that I do the Phantom 4's other features. A quick moving subject can easily shake off the drone, and from my experience taking my bike for a very sweaty, stressful ride around the neighborhood, even under what I would consider to be pretty ideal conditions with a high-vis yellow object to track, the altitude and the following distance of the drone was all over the place. It lost me twice while maneuvering slowly, and the collision avoidance system managed to scrape a street lamp, though fortunately without crashing, stop dead in front of a branch that it wasn't going to hit instead of going around it, and not stop itself as I crept towards fairly dense foliage pulling into my driveway. It works sometimes, but it's not a mode that I would actually use unless I had the kind of income that would make buying a new Phantom 4 basically inconsequential. Which leads us then to the conclusion here, because the Phantom 4 is not cheap. Is it worth the money? Well, not if you don't have $1,000 lying around, I suppose. But if you were shopping for a fancy quadcopter for pleasure or even light professional use, man, the lack of an HDMI output on the controller without a $100 add-on module and some tinkering is a bummer, but I can't criticize much else about it. It's not as much of a blast to rip around in the park as a fully manual, even a fixed wing, quite frankly, and it feels more like a tool to use than a toy to go out and play with, but that doesn't mean that it's boring, and combined with some creativity, the Phantom 4 really packs a lot of fun into its functionality. Bottom line, this thing spanks. I'm gonna try and popularize that. That spanks, bro. So here's some good news. Massdrop, you might know them from such deals as deals on knives, deals on camping supplies, deals on keyboards, or deals on audio gear. The way that Massdrop works is they find authorized resellers or manufacturers and they say, hey, we've got this huge community of enthusiasts. If you drop your price, we can get a bunch of people to buy. And then they go to the enthusiasts. They say, hey, if a bunch of you guys commit to buy, we can get them to drop their price. And they've recently branched out into exclusive products as well. So they're actually working with Hi-Fi Man to bring back their HE300 headphones with a special MD or Mass Drop Edition twist. So at the beginning, solely under the Hi-Fi Man brand, these entry level, can you really call them that? Headphones were priced at $300 US. So the new ones are very similar to the older HE300s, but with an updated and more lightweight structure, a more neutral sound signature, and an all black appearance compared to the silver and black of the older generation product. But the most important change is they have reduced the price to an actually legitimately low $99 US. So check out those headphones and more over at drop.ps/LTT-H-350, or more conveniently, linked in the video description. So thanks for watching, guys. If this video sucked, you know what to do, but if it was good, get subscribed, hit the like button, or even consider supporting us directly by using our affiliate code to shop at Amazon. Instructions up there. By buying a cool shirt like this one, link down there, or with a direct monthly contribution through our community forum, which is also linked down there, and you can ask tech questions and discuss tech and all that cool stuff. With all that out of the way, you're probably wondering what to watch next, so check out that video in the top right, where what's a good channel super fun that we've done recently? Oh yeah, check out the Murder Mystery channel super fun. It's awesome.